I now would like to open up for questions from the audience. And I think there's a microphone that can move around.
Is the challenge around the entire planting material and completely very little research in terms, I don't know whether I should say research, but in terms of the productivity of pulses in the last 30 years or last 40 years, they have been reasonably at a stagnant level. So this is one issue I think in through the several discussions which was kind of missed out, and if you are looking at accelerating pulses, this is an area to be seen.
So my question, or rather say kind of suggestion, is that we slightly a bit touched about national agriculture market, because this is a very big program, and promoting diversity in food system is a very complex process. It is not only about agriculture, but sociology, economics, and a lot of things are involved in that. Even to some extent, anthropology is involved. People might refuse to eat something at certain places. So my question would be to the panelists or to the program that what kind of technology in terms of especially information communication technology role you are envisioning in this particular program, because that point has little bit touched by Dr. Joshi, but otherwise it was not been spoken about.
We have forgotten about our course cereals, and its production has considerably declined, consumption habit has changed, and all that. Now that the nutritionist and dietitian have proved that they are a very important source of nourishment, I think this project may give some emphasis at least on this.
So that is how we could respond to the nutrition challenges. That is symptomatic of a problem. I mean, all these aspects are very important. And forget about the anemia and those kind of things, but the lifestyle and diabetes and other kind of diseases, which India is going to be again.
What kind of research we should focus on so that productivity increases, risk reduces, and naturally without price incentive nothing can be possible. Thank you very much.
Questions for three panelists. Purvi, you mentioned linking agriculture and nutrition in the curriculum. We all studied in agriculture universities. There was no nutrition course when we studied. We have to pick up nutrition as we went along. And we have home science on one side teaching nutrition, and they don't come to agriculture. And now we wake up after 30 years or so and say, oh my God, agriculture and nutrition have to come together. And where do we start? And we have done some curriculum reviews, both home science as well as in agriculture. There is going to be a little bit of a challenge to do this interdisciplinary kind of curriculum because we are all trained in our own disciplines, both in the West as well as here, and focus on our own little disciplines. So one area to bring them together is, for example, nutrition and economics, to maybe even start an undergraduate course in private universities on nutrition, economics, and policy, so that wakes up the public sector that's one thing for you to kind of comment on. Suresh Pal, you mentioned about several schemes of the government. How can we make them nutrition sensitive, and where is the entry point for those? If you can even give one example, that will be useful for this audience. And finally, Shobha Shetty, you talked about the systems have to be climate smart. You mentioned the agile research system, and we were in the ICAR system this morning talking with the KVK kind of related issues. Can you give me an example of if we have to go to ICAR Director General and say, you have to make your system climate smart, what would you say to them?
Sir, rather it's not a question, I need a clarification from Dr. Ashok Gulati. Actually, you told that from price support measures to income support measures, if government agrees that point also. So my first clarification is that how that even land owners and land operators, both are different. How it is being identified. In case of even credit access, institutional credit accessibility also, it is a major reason That is why they are going for non-institutional credit, because they don't have the land record, those who are cultivating. So that is one question. Then if it is accepted also, if it is reaching them also, how it is having the implications for WTO? Like lot of price support measures, although we have been blamed. Now if you are directly going for income support measures, then it will have impact on the WTO agreements also. Then third one is that if it is given the money, for example 10,000 per hectare, the farmer himself may not go for again cultivation, because rather he is going to get around 5 to 10,000 in case of rainfall crops. So how it is being assured? Thank you, sir.
I'm from the Hindustan Times. Very quick question, a question probably nobody else will ask. This initiative is of course being funded by the Gates Foundation and Tata. And well, way back when I was studying economics and studying the Bretton Woods institutions, one realized that aid is not done. Aid comes with conditionalities. Now, the grant that you have got, are there any conditionalities woven into it, or is the only condition improved nutrition outcomes?
I was the signatory to the grant, and I looked very carefully at all the conditions. There was no conditionality associated with anything that we do or deliver or any knowledge that we provide. So I can be very clear on that. There is a certain benefit of working with private foundations where you don't have those conditionalities that you may see with bilateral donors, etc. So I can be very clear on that. Now let's go to the panel.
I think I'll do two, because one I'll say on behalf of the Gates Foundation and one on behalf of me. On the conditionality, I think the only conditionality we have is, we've been struggling with trying to link, we as a country, I say this as an Indian,
Can you keep the mic
trying
up?
to sort of leverage our agriculture production system, agriculture productivity to address some of the nutrition challenges that we've been facing right from the beginning. And I think what the hopes that we have with this project or any of our food system project is, as long as we are able to contribute towards answering that question, I think that's the only conditionality, so absolutely. The second one I would take perhaps, depending upon what the other panelists, maybe on technologies. I think, there were a couple of questions regarding the technologies. One is on the underutilized species, and one is on the, several questions on the cereal systems. I think, one of the things we need to really realize is that, we are not here talking about replacing the cereal systems, because the farmers will not do that also, right? And therefore, within the present rice-wheat system, what is it that we can optimize? Within the rice-wheat system, say, for example, a more fortified varieties, for example, that could be one way of looking at it. But when I say within, also, as Dr. Sharma, to your question, legume as an intercrop, for example. What are the technologies that is available for assuring an early harvest, late sowing rice variety, for example, in Bihar, so that one clear season in between the two crops can be achieved, and a legume crop can be taken. So I think technologies for fortifying our present system, technologies for adding new system, technologies that are pre-harvest and post-harvest. So a range of technologies can play an extremely important role in this whole thing. And in terms of the underutilized, I think, let me speak from a farmer's perspective. Let us face it, farmers do not plant there or choose the crop that they want to grow because it is underutilized or any of the other things. They want to grow it, and nutrition also is never on their first priority list. They do it for marketability, right? And therefore, when you promote production system of underutilized crops, which I absolutely agree we must work on, but along with the production and promotion of underutilized crop, if you don't combine it with marketability of that crop, I think we will have very limited success in it.
Thank you. Ashok?
Well, let me pick up Gopi's question first. Can we make rice or wheat more strong nutritionally? Well, the technologies do exist, especially on micronutrient side. And this year's World Food Prize to our great friends, Hadi Bois and others, is basically on biofortification. But if the political challenge is, are we ready to accept golden rice, which is held up for 10 years? But I'm told wheat is being released with more zinc, sweet potato and all that. So the technologies are coming, and for you, Bill and Melinda Gates pumps a lot of money into biofortification too. But that's one way through which technologies can be made more, these staples can be made more nutritious. Pearl millet is already released in India. In fact, I organized, Hadi's talk in Ministry of Agriculture in those corridors, and the two secretaries who were sitting, the food secretary immediately said, where can we get this entire thing for our PDS? It needs to be pushed. Can we? But people don't want to consume pearl millet now in Delhi. So a bit of preference function and all that. Second question, yes, bank, he has gone? No, oh yeah. Why can't we do something we did for milk? And that's a question very important for fruits and vegetables. The problem that I see in the government circles, particularly in Krishi Bhavan, 80%, 90% of the talk and policy making is increase production, increase production, increase production. The marketing part is the back end. Oh, ho jayega. So if you look at horticulture mission, major focus was on production side. Give incentives for that. Marketing part, they are waking up when prices crash, some little effort here or there. So I think if you put the marketing and production both on the same platform, 50-50, two sides of the same coin, things will start improving. And it can be done. Fruits and vegetable is not one commodity, it is 20 commodities. Each has its own characteristics. So even if you pick up 5 major value chains in the country and try to do what you did in milk, you can make farmers get 60%, 70% of the consumer's price. But that's not happening because of too much distortion in the value chain, where the disproportionate share is taken by commission agents and others, losses and all that. So it can be done, I feel, if you have a focus. Question of switching from price policy to income policy, we don't know who is the farmer. Landlord, tenant, some absentee, what is going on? Yes, it's a challenge. There is a scheme within the government to update the land records. There were no accounts in the country of the people. Many people, 40% of the people didn't have any accounts in banking system. But within 6 months, much of that was achieved. If the top political leadership says, I want it, get it done, that's it, full stop. Don't we know who are the farmers in the country? So if the PM puts it on a priority, you are doing today Fasal Bima, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. You can digitize each plot, what they are growing. And you can link up who is the owner, who is the tenant, ask the Patwari. All these things can be done. But even if you can't do anything, do give it to the owner. China is giving it to the owner, advertise on a big scale that this is the money he has got. Tenant will know, he will say either give me that or lower my rental for the land. This is what China is doing. So there are, nothing is that there is no problem, problems are there. But they can be straightened out if you focus on this. The problem in the top policy making is, we want bullet trains, 100,000 crores on that, but we can't make Marathwada have drinking water. and that has to be ferried. So that's where the elitist element of policy making comes in. And if you have that, country, 18% is the irrigated area under pulses. How can you stabilize production? So there is a big change that is needed in the leadership and where the priorities are, where to put the buck and where to put the priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Shobha.
Yeah, let me take a couple of the questions. One on the research agenda, on the climate smart research, and what is that going to look like? I think this is, somebody had earlier mentioned that the entire sort of system in ICAR is really geared towards, I mean, the incentives are really sort of rewarding those who work on the rice wheat cropping system, and there's little else right now. So I think what I was talking about is really sort of refocusing sort of our priorities in research. And you know, this could come, well, not just from ICAR, but also from the private sector or from the international public research system. But this is going to be a major source, driver for diversification into higher value crops, but also to really sort of focus on the whole sort of climate smart agenda, withstanding specific conditions like evolving, you know, pests and diseases, for example, supporting local priorities. And that's where the KVKs, in conjunction with local agricultural universities, are going to be even more important, because these have to be, this is research that's adapted to local tastes, the timing of growing cycles, for example, and also emphasizing varieties that are really sort of capable of responding to and adapting to the pressures of climate change. So I think we're talking about a much more knowledge-intensive and a much more sort of resilient agriculture that ICAR really needs to, you know, focus on as, you know, the premier apex research institution in the country. And the question on cooperatives and, you know, whether what we can do in terms of providing those institutions to really improve marketing of fruits and vegetables. I think this was something that was one of my fellow panelists had already alluded to. The problem is, you know, with the aggregation, more than 80% of the farmers are smallholders. So I think there is no alternative but to move towards, you know, more farmer-producer organizations. We've had some successes with producer companies in some states, in some commodities. Some of the self-help groups that have, you know, formed federations at the village and district level have had successes in milk and poultry and so on. But I think that, you know, producer companies, cooperatives, you know, whatever you call it, I mean, I think producer companies have been much more sort of popular of late, are really sort of the way to get this aggregation going and for farmers to be able to bargain for better prices, both not only in terms of the outputs, but also, you know, in terms of fertilizer and other inputs and so on. So we are seeing, I think, some successes, but it's been spotty, but I think that is the way to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take a few points. One is on research system. It was mentioned that why ICR is not doing anything on pulses and other commodities. So it is not true that nothing has been done on pulse research. Merely looking to the district level data or state level data or country level data on productivity does not mean that ICR or any research system has not done anything on agriculture research. You know that the pulses have moved to inferior areas, marginal areas without sacrificing productivity. So this is one contribution of research. And they are now moved to the non-traditional areas. Earlier, we were not growing chickpea in the hot and dry climate. It was, you know, loved in cold climate. Now chickpea is being produced in hot and dry climate like Andhra Pradesh, where productivity is more than 3 tons per hectare. Andhra Pradesh, Guntur district, if you look. So a lot of research has been done in this context. So we need to see how we are looking the research. The second kind of research is that the pulses, long duration pulses have been made medium duration to short duration, to extra short duration, to extra short duration. Now, pigeon pea, which used to be a crop of 360 days, now they have made a crop of 90 days, less than 90 days. So these are the contributions of research. So we need to see how the research is being done. It is not always productivity enhancement, but from different angles, the research has contributed. This is number one. Second is the seed sector. Really, in pulses, seed sector is big. For last 15 years, everyone is saying seed is not available. But what are we doing for seed production? Nothing we are doing. So, and what are the constraints? In my perception, the seed production, the scale of seed production is very, very low. It is only 1.4 ton requirement of seed. And for a business model, it is non-viable. And this is for all crops, all 9 pulses. So 1.4 million ton is nothing. So no private sector is entering in this venture. And neither public sector is producing seeds. So we need to see how we can do it. And I feel that we have recommended that it should be, I think we should register some of the civil society organizations like Pradhan or BAF or CARE. So this Gramin Vikas Sansthan. So they can sell seed as a branded seed. It is coming from them. They are in the ground, they can produce seed, they can involve farmers. So this seed production is really, really important, and we have not done anything. I don't know whether we are going to do same mistake in future or not. Second is on e-NAM. I think the issue is also e-NAM is linked with the, we have done in milk, why not in fruits and vegetables? It's basically the aggregation. You know, the marketable surplus in case of milk of individual farmer is also very, very low. 1 liter, 2 liter, or 3 liter. It's so low marketable surplus. But it's the aggregation. Within village, this is being aggregated. And then farmers are sharing benefit of the, whatever the benefit, the process is being done, processing is being done. So he's sharing the benefit of the retail prices. So aggregation is an important issue. How we do aggregate, whether it is poultry or it is milk, the aggregation is being done. The farmer producer organization, as has been mentioned, I think that this is the future. If we need to strengthen farmer producer organizations, lots of problems will be solved. We need to incentivize farmer producer organizations for improving production, also linking with the markets, reducing the value chains. I have interacted with around 40 these farmer producer organizations recently, and I was surprised that these farmer producer organizations controlled by small and marginal farmers, they are hiring professionals from agriculture universities to tell them what pesticides should be sprayed, how to kill the insects. So they are seeking advice from them, giving salary to these professionals. So we need to bring a change. You know, we have seen agriculture is a way of life. Agriculture is always considered a way of life, and farmer is a very poor person. He is depending on agriculture. I think this mindset has to be changed now in the present context. We have to convert it to an agri-business opportunity. How we can convert this way of life to agri-business opportunity. Every farmer, every group of farmers should have their own business model. Unless it is there, I think we cannot succeed. And e-NAM, the success of e-NAM will rely, if you want to involve these small and marginal farmers. If you want to involve the traders, then it will continue as it can. But if you have to involve small and marginal farmers, I think that we have to have aggregation. If you look to the milk sector, it is not always technology. Still, our cow is giving less than 3 or 4 liters of milk. No technological advancement. But India is #1, or it's a surplus in milk now. It's institutional innovation. The aggregation and institutional innovation, linking farmers directly with the market through cooperatives or other means. So this is important, which we need to consider. Then nutritional change, I think it is taste and preferences. Our consumption habits are very strong. Those who take tur dal, they don't take other dal. So and the elasticity of substitution between these dals is very, very negligible. So if any dal's rate increases, we don't switch over to another dal. So it's a very, very different situation than if you compare pulses with other commodities. So it is the taste and preferences are important. Second is important is the behavioral change. We need to change the behavior of the consumer. And consumer wants now a modern food. So our role should be to see that how the traditional wisdom in food system, how the traditional system in food system can be transformed to the modern food. Like for, I take example of sattu always. Sattu is a traditional food, highly nutritive food. So how we can make it this traditional wisdom to modern food, can brand it, we have a different variant of sattu. So if we have that kind of perception, it will become a global commodity rather than confining to a pocket of India. So I think we have these points. Climate smart agriculture, you know, someone asked you asked, Suresh, what DG you will say to Director General. Already there is a big program on climate smart agriculture. NICRA is a big program which is Government of India has given to the Indian Council of Agriculture Research. Huge program is going on where research is there. Lot of technologies have come up. Now how these can be adopted is a different issue. Capacity building of the farmers, capacity building of stakeholders is going on. So these are my inputs on the questions.
Thank you. Suresh, last
Thank you. Yeah, most of the questions they have been responded. Just a couple of things I would like to again say. First is related to what has happened in the rain-fed areas. Have we really done the research system and the government has really done for these areas for increasing the productivity? I would say a lot of has been done in the for increasing the productivity of crop in these rain-fed areas basically. All the technology, hybrid technology we have, that is for the rain-fed agriculture. It's not for the irrigated agriculture, it has been there. What we just see most for, let's say, wheat and rice, because of the size, the area under these crops and the production. But if we just see the in terms of increase in productivity, the progress is in fact much impressive. The crops grown in this area. We can see the recent examples of cotton. What has happened there, how much increase in the productivity. We can see in terms of maize, tremendous increase in productivity, which is much higher than what we achieved for, let's say, rice and wheat. Soybean, expansion of area, increase in productivity, shifting to this yellow soybean. So number of changes, increase in productivity, other changes that has taken place. Sorghum, hybrid sorghum, say significant increase in productivity. Palm millet, basically, we say. Area is limited, but we see the hybrids, their yield is much higher than what you used to have from the composite varieties. So we say there is a lot of changes which has taken in the rain-fed agriculture, and all these developments basically again focusing on rain-fed agriculture because still we have the 60% area there. That is one thing. Another thing was raised related to the diversification in Eastern India. This is extremely important because if only rice can be grown, how much rice the country can have, how much we can produce. So that is one thing. For Kharif, there may be limitation because mostly rice or jute can be grown. But there are other areas where we can look for the opportunities for diversification. For example, in the upland areas, we can see rice productivity is really low, 1 ton plus. But there could be other crops which can be grown there. It could be, let's say, pulses or oil seed. It could be some other, let's say, crop, maybe maize or something like that. So one can look at what are the opportunities there. That is one reason. Then we have the second season, second crops we take based on the residual moisture or wherever the irrigation facilities are there. So can we go for some other commodities which has higher prices, more nutrition, everything that can be done. And some areas, I mean, we have seen even the tribal areas where the little bit of irrigation is available, the farmers, they are doing in second crop, they are taking vegetables. So that is some kind of cash crop for them. So there are a lot of opportunities. So we can go even for the horticulture, no? For mango, this let's say guava, number of crops, even some of the areas we see the banana is coming, Eastern India and maybe Bihar. So a lot of opportunities for diversification. Coming to the government scheme for improving the nutrition, the number of schemes they are there. In fact, all they contribute. If we talk about the increasing the productivity and production of, let's say, horticulture crops, livestock, that's basically we are contributing towards the improving the nutrition. But there are specific programs, say for R&D, we have the biofortification. So it's through doing the, through crop improvement as well as through doing the, let's say, agronomic practices, we can increase the nutritive value. So all these schemes basically, they contribute to improving the nutrition.
So I realize every time we have a session in India that there's so much enthusiasm to ask a lot of questions, and panelists like to talk a lot also, but it's getting late at night now. And so we should cut this. But let me have one final word here. Every time we talk about diversification, there is the sense that somehow we are creating a trade-off between staples versus non-staples. That if you promote non-staples, somehow you're sacrificing staples. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to have an either-or situation. If you have the right policies and right technologies and investments, you can actually grow the size of the food basket, where you have both growth in staples as well as growth in non-staples. And I think the debate has to get to that level. And it's only then will we look at diversification as the way forward rather than as an obstruction to food security, etc. That's my last word on it. And now I'd like to have Nikhil Raj, the director of TARINA, to give a vote of thanks. Nikhil?
Thank you. And I think it's very late, but more beyond customary words of vote of thanks, I think I would like to thank my esteemed panelists for having given their time. Your presence is a commitment to the cause to which TCI TARINA is attached to and the agenda that it has taken up. Many thanks, sincere thanks, and we are also hopeful to get your continued guidance and cooperation during the journey. To my esteemed guests, each one of you in the house is an honored guest for us, and we are encouraged by the fact that yes, food systems can become indeed a rallying point for bringing a host of stakeholders together. Many thanks to each one of you. And to my right in the hall is a set of young researchers, also some nested on the left. I think one of the objectives of TCI TARINA is to create a cadre of professionals who can work around food systems. I think we are encouraged by your presence as well. Many thanks to you. I shall be failing in my duty if I do not thank my esteemed colleagues, including Dr. Bhaskar Mitra, Dr. Surabhi Mittal, Soumya Gupta, Vanya, Lal, Manoj, and Rahul, who have been tirelessly working throughout the last 5 weeks to make this happen. Many thanks for your continued support and guidance and burning the midnight oil. Thank you very much. Hopefully we have tried to make a diversity on your plate today. Over to drinks and some food. Thank you.